added liberals, because they really are. They're listening to CNN. They're listening to MSNBC. These stupid talking heads like Joe, what's his face, and Mika on
Scarborough.
Joe Scarborough. There was somebody funny on the radio on Rush's show the other day, and they said something that he looks like Beaker from the Muppets, and I laughed for 5 minutes. But it is. It's absolutely hypocritical because both Bushes, Clinton, Reagan, Obama all met with the Russians, spent time with them. Hillary Clinton, Senator Schumer, those memes are out there. We see them all the time. And, of course, the mushheads, the snowflakes are like, it's not the same. Yeah, it's exactly the same, except our guy actually has American interests at heart instead of giving away 20% of our uranium like Hillary did.
Right.
Getting, for what, $500,000 for her husband?
Wow.
And when Bill Clinton did that $500,000 deal, guess whose home he stayed in? Vladimir Putin's.
Oh, that's interesting.
So are you going to tell me that Donald Trump is in Vladimir's pocket? No, it's the Clintons that are in Vladimir's pockets, if anybody. So it just boggles my mind that people, here's A, Trump is too tough and he's going to start World War III, or B, he's in Putin's pocket and the dictator's pockets and he's too soft on dictators. Which is it?
I don't know. They seems like they were extremely afraid of North Korea when there was some tough talk going on. And guess what happened? We got a deal. And the same thing's going to happen with the Russia-U.S. relationship under Trump.
Yes, and we're going to get into that because I want to put this to rest right now. The Trump administration includes General Mattis, right? Secretary of Defense now, General Mattis. And a lot of people don't know this. In Syria, Russia has troops. We have troops. Iran has troops. And then there's mercenaries and all kinds of people. Right. Well, the Russians are big on using mercenaries. So they're like private troops. They get paid, but they're not allegedly Russian, right? They're not under the dictates of Russian. Well, back in February, there was a force of Russian irregulars who were beginning to attack an American-held position. And per the protocols that are in Syria, they used the deconfliction line, which is the American commanders call up the Russian commanders and say, hey, we've got troops there. There's some fighting going on. Are these your troops? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I want you to listen to what Mattis said in a Senate hearing with Senator Fisher. Derek, you got track 3 going? And this is General Mattis, who worked for Donald Trump, mind you. Go ahead and play that track.
Are the Russians forces actively harassing American forces in Syria? And what do you believe is an appropriate response if you agree that they are?
I cannot target the responsibility to the Russians right now. As you know, it's a crowded battlefield, and it's also got Iranians there, and of course the regime forces as well. But you notice as we go forward with we've so far sanctioned 189 individuals in Russia, and we're looking at those who have, we've also, as you know, thrown 6 of their diplomats out, and economic sanctions are going to be obviously looked at for future violations as well. So we have an asymmetric way, an indirect way of going back after them and making them pay. Right now in Syria, we have an odd and somewhat open and never interrupted deconfliction communication line that has worked pretty well to make certain we don't run afoul of one another's forces or one another's operations. They are not coordinated. They're deconflicted in either time or space, mostly in space. The river, for example, the Euphrates, divides our activities in some cases.
Did you use that deconflicted line in communication with the Russians when it was reported in February that there were large numbers of Russian irregular forces that had attacked U.S. forces?
It was used, Senator. The Russian High Command in Syria assured us it was not their people, and my direction to the chairman was for the force then was to be annihilated. And
Thank
it
you,
was.
sir. Thank you.
All right. So the Russians play an odd game, and people are expendable to them. They're not nice and civilized like we are. Vladimir Putin is a KGB agent. That's never going to change. He's hardcore. He's going to do what's best for him and his people who control the government. And in Syria, there's a whole lot going on there, and a lot of it goes back to oil again. So they're down there, and you can look at all kinds of things, what's going on with the meddling and what is the Russian end game. But don't tell me that Donald Trump is not tough on Russia, because using that deconfliction line, Mattis called the Russians and said, you've got Russian troops coming our way, and they're starting to fire on our positions. And the Russians said, no, those aren't Russian forces. They're Russian irregular forces, mercenaries, but Russian nonetheless. And what did he say? He annihilated. You know how many people he killed? How many Russian irregular forces? 550 Russian irregular forces were annihilated. They brought in the air support and annihilated them. And what did Russia do? Nothing. So Putin knows that we have the upper hand, that we're strong, and that we now have a president willing to use force and willing to stand up to him and his nonsense. We're now sending arms to Ukraine. Obama never did. So don't tell me that Trump is weak compared to Obama. That's a flat-out lie.
Well, the bottom line is under Trump, ISIS was destroyed on the battlefield.
In 18 months?
In a very short time.
I mean, I don't know how long they proliferated under Obama. Years?
Obama and Clinton, their diplomatic policy of destabilizing Libya and the whole Middle East, that led directly to ISIS, and we're cleaning up the mess that Clinton and Obama gave us.
One of the worst things I saw on Twitter this week was Hillary Clinton spouting off that Donald Trump had kind of thrown our intelligence service under the bus by saying he kind of maybe believed that, Vladimir said he didn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. We all know that the Russians did interfere, as we interfere in every other country's elections. But I thought to myself, she said, that's throwing our people under the bus. And a bunch of people piled on her and said, what, like you threw Chris Stevens, Ambassador Chris Stevens, your friend, under the bus? Why did you allow him to be killed? Or were you actively a participant in having him killed because he knew too much, Hillary Clinton? I'm putting on my tinfoil hat now.
Okay.
But I enjoy my tinfoil hat, and I want to know. Those are questions that have never been answered to this very day. And so, anyways, this information that I pulled up, that YouTube video for him, there's a guy on Twitter I want people to follow. Thomas, Thomas, Wictor, Wictor. If you're not following Thomas Wictor on Twitter, you must. Follow him. He's got some of the most incredible threads. I don't know where the information comes from, but this dude is connected and very, very smart. So until next week, Alex, thank you for coming in.
Oh, it's been fun.
Yeah, well, it went by fast, didn't it?
Unbelievable.
Okay, go to thedailydrift.com and we'll see you next week. Take care.